Welcome to your NCFE Level 2 Certificate in Principles of Customer Service, Session 4 of 4. Understand how to resolve problems and deliver customer service to challenging customers, and understand how to develop working relationships with colleagues. Brought to you on behalf of Poplar Harker and Solucious Equinox. My name is Phil Church and I shall be your narrator and guide for this session. This NCFE Level 2 online Certificate in Principles of Customer Service and Delivery has been brought to you by Poplar Harker and Solucious Equinox for online learning. Visit and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more learning videos. The units being covered today are: understand how to resolve problems and deliver customer service to challenging customers, and understand how to develop working relationships with colleagues. Your learning journey so far. Session 1 covered principles of customer service and delivery. Session 2 covered understand customers and understand employer organisations. And from there, you should have made a start or completed your online assessment 1. Session 3 was understand how to communicate with customers and understand how to develop customer relations. And Session 4, understand how to resolve problems and deliver customer service to challenging customers, and understand how to develop working relationships with colleagues. Following this session, you should be able to complete your online assessment 2. Once that has been assessed along with your first assignment, with full tutor support throughout the programme, after internal quality and external quality assurance checks, you'll be awarded your qualification. Completing your assignments. It is important to understand the action verbs in the assignment questions. The action verbs define. Your answer must give the precise meaning of a word. Describe. In order to describe something, you must give a detailed account of it. Explain. You need to ensure that your answer is clear, revealing relevant facts. Identify. Point out and explain. Don't just make a list. Your answer should establish who or what something is. We will tutor you throughout the programme and help you to complete the 2 assignments. Once you submit your assignments online, they will be assessed. All your completed assignments will then be submitted for internal and external quality assurance, and once this process is complete, you'll be awarded your qualification. Our remote assistance service, we can be contacted at learners@soluciousequinox.com, and your emails must be marked with NCFE customer service to ensure that they're not lost. And our telephone numbers are there for you to call us should you need any personal assistance. When working through the assessments, please base your answers on any of the following: a customer service role you have in your current job, a customer service role in a previous job, an organisation that is familiar to you, or an organisation that you have researched. In this section, we will look at understand the delivery of customer service to challenging customers. And by the end of this section, you'll be able to describe different types of challenging customers in the customer service environment. Explain an organisation's procedures and standards of behaviour for dealing with challenging customers. Explain behaviours that make it challenging to deal with customers. Explain the difference between assertive and aggressive behaviour. Describe techniques to deal with customers' challenging behaviour outside the service offer. Explain their own levels of authority for agreeing actions outside the service offer. And explain why it is important that colleagues are informed when challenging customers reopen or escalate matters. Different types of challenging customers in the customer service environment. Customers may be challenging to deal with as a consequence of additional needs or requirements, for example, impaired vision, hearing or mobility issues that need to be accommodated. Poor communication skills, for example, learning difficulties that make communication difficult. Language barriers, for example, making them upset because they find it hard to express themselves in English. Cultural barriers, for example, making some customers seem rude because saying please or thank you is not part of their culture. Personal problems, for example, issues with alcohol, drugs, or a medical condition, childcare or family problems, difficult living conditions, an incident, emergency or trauma, for example, reacting badly if they, or a person close to them, have been involved in an accident, injury or serious illness. Dissatisfaction and disappointment, for example, reacting emotionally when there is a problem with a product or service. Impatience, for example, being short-tempered if they are dealt with straight away. Indecision, for example, uncertainty about how to proceed, what they want or how to solve problems. And being overly assertive, confident or intimidating, for example, coming across as a bully when talking to customer service staff or being too talkative. Your assignment question is asking you for question 25 to describe different types of challenging customers in the customer service environment. And further reading can be found in your qualification handbook or use the internet for further research. Organisational procedures and standards of behaviour for dealing with challenging customers. Take a look at the procedures and standards for your organisation or one that you know well or have researched. These tend to cover staff members' behaviour, staying calm and polite at all times, welcoming and greeting each customer, being patient, listening carefully to the customer, showing empathy, apologising sincerely for problems caused by the organisation, finding realistic and satisfactory solutions, asking for help and escalate the problem when required, providing assistance such as ramps, loop systems for hearing disabilities, subtitles, adapted changing and toilet facilities, respecting cultural diversity and language issues, observing dress codes and symbols, respect how different genders are treated in other cultures, be discreet and allow privacy, be polite, courteous and friendly at all times, speak clearly and slowly, avoiding local sayings, repeat very clearly if requested, stay calm, if not sure how to handle the situation. Your assignment question is asking you for question 26 to explain your organisation's procedures and standards of behaviour for dealing with challenging customers. And the points might include the staff member's behaviour, being calm and polite at all times, welcoming and greeting each customer, apologising sincerely for problems caused by the organisation, providing assistance such as ramps, loop systems and subtitles, respecting cultural diversity, being discreet and allowing privacy. And further reading can be found in your qualification handbook or use the internet for further research. Behaviours that make it challenging to deal with customers. Challenging behaviours may include aggression, for example, threatening or bullying staff or others, being violent, standing very close to someone and intimidating them, using threatening gestures, frustration, for example, getting angry and making inappropriate comments and refusing to accept limitations and procedures, crying or losing control of their temper, irritation, for example, being impatient and bad-tempered, questioning the competence of staff or the organisation, confrontation, for example, arguing with staff and making unreasonable demands, for example, expecting solutions that cannot be delivered, being unrealistic about deadlines or the limits of the service offer. Never put yourself or anyone else in a position of risk. Your assignment question is asking you for question 27 to explain behaviours that make it challenging to deal with customers. So those challenging behaviours can include aggression, frustration, accepting limits and procedures, and irritation. And further reading can be found in your qualification handbook or use the internet for further research. The difference between assertive and aggressive behaviour. Assertive behaviour tends to be being self-assured and confident, for example, using a clear voice and positive open body language. Making a confident, clear and honest declaration, for example, stating clearly what, how and when they want something to happen. Being aware and clear about rights, for example, a customer knowing their rights and being clear about what they want. Being proactive, for example, taking action rather than just waiting for something to happen. Respecting boundaries, for example, respecting other people's personal boundaries and knowing how far they can go when negotiating. And being willing to defend a position, for example, not giving in to aggressive behaviour. Aggressive behaviour. Aggressive people tend to force their point of view on others and can violate the rights of others. Their behaviours can be emotional and unpredictable. For example, angry outbursts, for example, swearing, shouting or screaming. Physical violence or threats. Aggressive body language, for example, standing extremely close to someone or shaking their fists. Never put yourself or anyone else in a position of risk. Your assignment question is asking you for question 28 to explain the difference between assertive and aggressive behaviour. So assertive behaviour can include being self-assured and confident, making a confident, clear and honest declaration, being proactive and respecting boundaries, where aggressive behaviour are people who have angry outbursts, swearing, shouting, screaming, forcing their view on other people and violating the rights of others, aggressive body language, and shaking their fists and standing extremely close to someone or something. And further reading can be found in your qualification handbook or use the internet for further research. Techniques to deal with customers' challenging behaviour. The main aims are to diffuse emotions, identify the problem, agree and implement solutions, take appropriate follow-up action. When selecting techniques to deal with challenging behaviour, staff can welcome and greet the customer, introduce themselves, offer to move or change the environment, speak clearly and open questions, use active listening skills, show empathy and give the customer the full attention, focus on the desired outcome, explore and agree a solution, and agree and take up follow-up action. Your assignment question is asking you for question 29 to describe techniques to deal with customers' challenging behaviour. And further reading can be found in your qualification handbook or use the internet for further research. Limits of authority for staff agreeing actions outside the service offer. Think about the limits of your authority in the organisation that you work in, or one you know well or have researched. What actions can you take that are outside the service offer? The range of goods and services offered. The pricing. Discounts. Delivery and installation options. Warranties, return policies, other value-added features. Actions outside the service offer procedures show what the individual is allowed to agree to without referring to a line manager, for example, discounts and special offers, delivery times and installation costs, and small refunds. And what the individual needs to escalate to a line manager. For example, large refunds, items that have been returned outside of the statutory time limits, product faults that need to be reported to the manufacturer. Your assignment question is asking you for question 30 to explain the limits of authority for staff in your organisation for agreeing actions outside the service offer. And further reading can be found in your qualification handbook or use the internet for further research. The importance of colleagues being informed when challenging customers reopen or escalate matters. Alerting team members or line managers all of the details enables them to get a picture of what has happened already. For example, details of the original problem, the actions taken, and what has happened since. It'll enable them to deal with the customer from a position of knowledge and support the decisions and actions that have already been made and offer alternatives with some authority. For example, offering solutions that have not been tried before. Wider benefits for the organisation when colleagues and managers are briefed. Everyone knows where they stand, because they are all following the organisation's established procedures. And customers can be dealt with effectively and without having to repeat themselves too often. The organisation's reputation with its customers can be maintained, and customer loyalty can be developed and maintained. Managers can be fully informed, which helps them to make effective decisions about the problem and the escalation process. Staff members can be supported if persistent and unreliable, challenging. Customers can make repeated accusations and unjustified complaints. Your assignment question is asking you for question 31 to explain why it is important that colleagues are informed when challenging customers reopen or escalate matters. And further reading can be found in your qualification handbook or use the internet for further research. In this section, we will look at understand the resolution of customer service problems. And by the end of this section, you will be able to describe an organisation's customer service and complaints procedures, describe techniques to identify customer service problems and their causes, describe techniques to deal with situations where customers become agitated or angry, and explain the limits of their own authority for resolving customers' problems and making promises. Explain the purpose of encouraging customers to provide feedback. Describe methods to use to encourage customers to provide feedback. Organisations' customer service and complaints procedures. Customer service procedures cover many tasks and functions. Quality, image and presentation of products and services. Quality, image and presentation of staff. Promotion of services. Contact and communication with customers. Delivery of products to customers. Monitoring and improving products and services. Finance. Compliance with legislation and regulations. Procedures covering actions before, during and after the transaction. Complaints procedures could include standardised processes about who deals with complaints, what each staff member is allowed to say and agree, timescales for resolution, how to deal with each situation and which solutions can be offered, when to escalate the problem up the management line, what happens if the organisation cannot agree a satisfactory outcome with the customer. For example, the customer's rights under consumer legislation, customer's statutory rights, instructions on how staff should deal with a complaint. Listen to or read the details of the complaint, maybe making notes about the details. Apologise to the customer and show that they understand and sympathise with the customer. Explain the background to the problem or issue, or offer to investigate if the cause of the problem is not obvious. Outline solutions and keep the customer informed at all stages of the process, even if it takes many weeks to resolve the problem. Apologise again, reassure and thank the customer for their patience and custom. use the HEAT method. Hear, empathise, apologise and take ownership. Your assignment question is asking you for question 32, describe an organisation's customer service and complaints procedure. And further reading can be found in your qualification handbook or use the internet for further research. Techniques to identify customer service problems and their causes. Problems and causes can be identified by tracking information from feedback from staff who encounter problems or deal with customers, customer surveys, reviews and forum comments, internal audit and monitoring records, customer feedback and complaints, comments, external reports, for example, from governing bodies, returned and rejected goods, and legal action. Your assignment question is asking you for question 33 to describe techniques to identify customer service problems and their causes. And further reading can be found in your qualification handbook or use the internet for further research. Techniques to deal with situations where customers become agitated or angry. First, never put yourself or anyone else in a position of risk. If there is no immediate threat, staff should deal with the angry customer by following the general techniques as covered in question 5. It is important to move away if possible so that the customer can discuss their details in private. This may remove them from the source of their anxiety, for example, a fight in a pub or a street, a crowd of people who are reacting emotionally or erratically. This will also ensure other customers are not upset or distracted by angry outbursts. Angry people usually run out of steam quite quickly if people just listen to them using good, active listening skills. Arguing with them just gives them an excuse to carry on ranting and is like throwing petrol on a fire. Listening and apologising are the best ways to diffuse anger. Dealing with violence, consider other conflict resolution techniques such as win-win, forcing, smoothing, compromising or withdrawing. Why not research other conflict resolution models? Your assignment question is asking you, for question 34, describe techniques to deal with situations where customers become agitated or angry. And further reading can be found in your qualification handbook or use the internet for further research. Limits of your own authority for resolving customers' problems and making promises. There are clearly limits to what you are authorised to do, and these are detailed in employment contracts, job descriptions, organisational policies, procedures or standards, training materials. Working within the limits protects the individual staff member by making sure that they act legally and are fully supported in their decisions and promises if they have worked in line with the organisation's procedures. The customer by making sure that their legal rights have been observed and respected. the organisation, helping it to maintain a good reputation for being fair and consistent. Your assignment question is asking you for question 35 to explain the limits of your own authority for resolving customers' problems and making promises. And further reading can be found in your qualification handbook, or use the internet for further research. Why do you think customer feedback is so valuable to an organisation? Knowledge is power, as they say. Organisations rely on data and information collected from customer feedback to review product lines or services with a view to improving them or introducing new ones, to see what changes are needed, and find out what is working, find out what is not working, find the most effective and successful ways of handling queries and complaints, making sure that customers feel valued, making sure that they are complying with relevant legislation and regulations. Organisational guidelines might include engaging in small talk whilst serving someone face-to-face, online or on the telephone, using active listening skills when dealing with feedback from a customer, reassuring them that if they are making a complaint, that their views are being taken seriously, asking for feedback and reacting to it in a genuine way. Your assignment question is asking you for question 36 to explain the purpose of encouraging customers to provide positive and negative feedback. Organisations need to review the feedback to evaluate the customer service and see what changes are needed, to adapt to changes in trends, expectations and technology, for example, and find out what is working so that they can develop and support the strong areas within the operation, find out what is not working so that they can rectify issues and catch major problems early and make any necessary changes as soon as possible, and finding the most effective and successful ways of handling queries and complaints to make sure that customers feel valued, to build customer loyalty, and making sure that they are complying with relevant legislation and regulations. And those organisational guidelines might include engaging in small talk while serving someone face-to-face, online or on the telephone, using active listening skills when dealing with feedback from a customer, reassuring them, if they are making a complaint, that their views are being taken seriously, and asking for feedback and reacting to it in a genuine way. Methods used to encourage customers to provide feedback. Talking to customers while serving them. This is a good source of information. However, how can this be captured by the organisation and how accurate is it? Questionnaires and surveys. These are also good sources of data and information. However, how accurate is the data and how do you encourage customers to complete them? Comment or suggestion cards. This is a good source of information. However, how do you encourage customers to take the time to complete them? Feedback forms. This is a good source of information. However, how do you encourage customers to complete these and how accurate are they? Focus groups. This is a good source of information. However, there are challenges to make these reflective of customer targets in the real world. Social media. This is a good source of information. However, They attract comments from people with agendas or an axe to grind. The two big questions you should perhaps consider are: how do you incentivize customers to give feedback? How accurate is the data and information? Your assignment question is asking you for question 37 to describe methods used to encourage customers to provide feedback. And further reading can be found in your qualification handbook or use the internet for further research. In this section, we will understand the principles of effective team working. And by the end of this section, you will be able to outline the benefits of effective team working, describe how to give feedback constructively, explain conflict management techniques that may be used to resolve team conflicts, explain the importance of giving team members the opportunity to discuss work progress and any issues arising, and explain the importance of warning colleagues of problems and changes that may affect them. Different types of teams within business. Types of teams. There are strategic, management, operational, functional, cross-functional, contract and project, virtual teams, matrix teams, self-managed teams, and task force teams. The purpose of teams are a common purpose and objective for productivity and quality, as a support system, or for continuous improvement, for new initiatives and ideas. The benefits of effective teamwork are increased productivity, increased profitability, to develop trust. Everyone knows their role and what others expect of them. Deliver a high standard of product and/or service. Follow the organisation's policies and procedures. Deliver the project on time and in budget. Provide support. And career development. Feeling proud to be associated with a successful and effective team. Feeling supported when tackling tasks or learning new skills. Feeling secure and confident. Other team members' knowledge, skills and experience. Opportunities for creativity and career development. Increased motivation and feeling valued. So remember, teams can benefit from working towards shared objectives. Team members who are flexible and able to do several tasks. Balanced and supported environment. Bringing together expertise of team members for the benefit of the whole team. Organisations can benefit from successful achievement of organisational objectives, access to a wide range of talents and strengths within the organisation, good internal communications, increased efficiency and less duplication of work, more flexible workforce, better relationships with customers, and better relationships with others connected to the organisation. Your assignment question is asking you, for question 38, to outline the benefits of effective team working. And further reading can be found in your qualification handbook or use the internet for further research. Importance of giving constructive feedback. Giving feedback is not just reserved for managers or supervisors. So how to give constructive feedback? Identify the issue straight away and provide specific feedback. Use open body language. And give the feedback as soon as possible after the event. Give feedback often so it doesn't appear as a shock when you actually give it. Give the person a chance to respond. Give suggestions. And always plan a review. And show support. Feedback can be given in different ways. Formal or informal. Verbally, written, qualitative, and quantitative. It's not always easy to give feedback. However, it is important for it to be honest and constructive. Honest, telling the truth or able to be trusted and not likely to steal, cheat or lie. And constructive, useful and likely or intended to improve something. Use appropriate language to the person receiving the feedback. Don't use hostile language. Put yourself in their shoes. And always use the sandwich method. Start off with something positive, give the constructive feedback in the middle, and always end on a positive note. Your assignment question is asking you, for question 39, describe how to give feedback constructively. Praise the individual or team for a good aspect of their performance. Mention and explain areas that need to be improved and give guidance and support about how to improve. Finish on a high note about positive aspects. Plan and hopes for the future developments and improvements. Have a clear purpose for giving the feedback. Respect the need for privacy and sensitivity. Be specific. Use good questioning techniques and focus on the issue or behaviour rather than the person. And further reading can be found in your qualification handbook or use the internet for further research. There will always be disagreements and some conflicts within teams. Some sources of conflict: conflict between individuals, conflict between groups, dissatisfaction with the workload or work slippages, lack of appreciation and perceived unfairness, misunderstandings and poor sharing of information, external problems that affect the team or individuals, differences of opinion, people having different objectives, incompatible objectives and rivalry, bullying, harassment or personality clashes between individuals, management of conflict, negotiation between parties, with good open communication, understanding the different personalities of people on the team, and setting non-conflicting goals, clear explanations of policies and procedures, and being consistent and being fair, and recognizing and rewarding effort. Early intervention. In essence, forcing, collaborating, withdrawing and smoothing. And forcing is also known as competing. An individual firmly pursues his or her own concerns despite resistance from the other person. And this may involve pushing one viewpoint at the expense of another or maintaining firm resistance to another person's actions. Example of when forcing may be appropriate: in certain situations when all other less forceful methods don't work or are ineffective, or when you need to stand up for your own rights and resist aggression, or as a last resort to resolve a long-standing conflict. It may provide a quick resolution to a conflict, and it increases self-esteem and draws respect when firm resistance or actions were the response to aggression or hostility. But it may negatively affect your relationship with the opponent in the long run, and it may cause the opponent to react in the same way, even if the opponent did not intend to be forceful originally. Win-win collaborating is also known as confronting the problem, confronting it head on, and it involves an attempt to work with the other person to find a win-win solution to the problem at hand, the one that most satisfies the concern of both parties. The win-win approach sees conflict resolution as an opportunity to come to a mutually beneficial result, and it includes identifying your opponent's underlying concerns and finding an alternative which meets each party's concerns. So you can use this when consensus and commitment of other parties is important, or when a high level of trust is present, or when you don't want to take full responsibility. Now, it can lead to solving the actual problem and leads to a win-win outcome, and it can reinforce mutual trust and respect. You earn a reputation as a good negotiator. However, the process of finding and establishing a win-win in many situations may be involved. It requires commitment from all parties to look for a mutually acceptable solution, so it may require more effort and more time than some other methods. For the same reason, collaborating may not be practical when timing is crucial for a quick solution or fast response. Once one or more parties lose their trust in an opponent, the relationship falls back to other methods of conflict resolution. Therefore, all involved parties must continue to collaborate efforts. Withdrawing is known as avoiding, and this is when a person neither pursues their own concerns nor those of their opponent. They don't wish to address the conflict, but sidesteps it, postpones it, or simply withdraws it. So an example of when it may be appropriate: when the issue is trivial and not worth the effort. When more important issues are pressing and you don't have the time to deal with it. In situations when postponing the response is beneficial to you. When it's not the right time or place to confront the issue, and when you need time to think and collect information before you act. For example, if you're unprepared or taken by surprise. When you see you have no chance of getting your concerns met, or you would have to put unreasonable effort in, and when you would have to deal with hostility. Now, there are some advantages of withdrawing. When the opponent is forcing or attempts aggression, you may choose to withdraw and postpone your response until you are in a more favourable circumstance for you to push back. It's a low-stress approach when the conflict is short. It gives you ability to have time to focus on more important and urgent issues. But it may lead to weakening or losing your position. Not acting may be interpreted as an agreement. Using withdrawing strategies without negatively affecting your own position requires certain skills or experience. Smoothing is known as accommodating. Smoothing is accommodating the concerns of other people first, rather than prioritising one's own concerns. So an example of when it would be appropriate: when it's important to provide a temporary relief from conflict or buy time until you're in a better position to respond or push back. When the issue is not as important to you as it is to the other person. When you accept that you are wrong. Possible advantages of smoothing, though: in some cases, smoothing will help to protect more important interests while giving up on some less important ones. As a rule, it does not require much effort. But the risk of being abused is real. The opponent may try to constantly take advantage of your tendency towards smoothing and accommodating. Therefore, it's important to maintain the right balance, and this requires some skill. It may negatively affect your confidence in your ability to respond to an aggressive opponent, and it makes it more difficult to transition to a win-win solution in the future. And some of your supporters may not like your smoothing response and be turned off. Take a look at these other techniques and do some research on how they could be used. Win-win or collaborating, confronting and solving a problem by working with other parties. Forcing or competing, when individuals only consider their own concerns and force their views on others. Smoothing or accommodating, when individuals smooth things over and accommodate other people's views, needs, demands and requests. Compromising, when people look for mutually acceptable solution that satisfies everyone. Withdrawing or avoiding, when people ignore the problem and step away from the conflict. You will not be able to resolve every conflict, and in some instances you will need to refer a situation to your line manager when you are not sure, if you need advice. The actions are outside of your limits of your authority. Your assignment question is asking you, for question 40A, to explain 3 conflict management techniques that may be used to resolve team conflicts. And 40B, explain when you would refer the conflict to your line manager. And further reading can be found in your qualification handbook or use the internet for more research. Discuss work progression and any issues with team members to see if their progress aligns with managers' expectations. Check that staff are working to agreed standards. Clear up any misunderstandings. On target for deadlines. Discuss problems. Agree actions that are needed. Develop working relationships. Provide information to help managers with planning. Have you ever felt frustrated that you have not been able to discuss the progress of your work? How did that make you feel? Did this make you feel that you weren't part of the team? Did this make you feel unsupported? Did this cause you to feel stressed? Did you feel issues remained unresolved? Your assignment question is asking you, for question 41, explain the importance of giving team members the opportunity to discuss work progress and any issues arising. Discussing work progress and issues are important so that team members can discuss their progress and compare it to work schedules. Check that they are working to agreed standards, help to avoid misunderstandings, identify and discuss any problems, agree actions that are needed, develop their skills, develop working relationships, and provide information to help managers with planning. And further reading can be found in your qualification handbook or use the internet for further research. All change, all change. Things invariably change in our own lives for various reasons, and this is equally applicable to organisations. The process of effectively managing change within organisations is often referred to as change management. Change within organisations can be as a consequence of many different reasons, and some of the main ones could be as follows. Changes in technology. For example, South West Trains and Great Western Railway changed their signalling systems to incorporate more trains on the network for higher demand, and as a result, the trains that they were using, the Intercity 125s, were too old and could not accommodate the new signalling systems, so they had to be upgraded to brand new trains. To reflect on what competitors are doing. Changes in the marketplace. Reflecting customer expectations. New legislation, regulations and standards. Environmental factors. Politics. Internal business needs, cutting costs, modernisation, changes to product lines, etc. And external business factors. COVID-19 had a major impact on industry, retail in particular, and companies had to adapt to this COVID-19 situation, and many companies went online with their sales. Those that did not struggled to stay alive. Customers expected this change and expected to shop online, and many companies who didn't, they were surprised. They offered massive sales to drive people back to their businesses once companies and retailers started to reopen. 50% off in restaurants, 70% off sales to get customer footfall back into the shopping centres. Environmental factors such as plastics, politics such as COVID-19 legislation, Health and Safety at Work Act legislation, internal business needs for cutting costs, streamlining and modernisation and changes to product lines have all impact on organisations. Change will impact staff in different ways, so it's important to understand and recognise this. And during a process of change, team members may experience the following: increased levels of stress, feelings of inadequacies, reduced productivity accompanied by failure to achieve targets, reduced pay, reduction in job satisfaction, reduced career opportunities, lack of confidence in team leaders and managers, conflict between team members, loss of key team members due to staff reductions or because they choose to leave, lack of job security, closure of organisations or sites within a portfolio. And this is reflected in the Kubler-Ross change curve. Moral and competence being at the left-hand side at a high level, over time across the bottom axis. As the change occurs in the business, there's shock and surprise at the event, whilst morale and competence is at high. At first there's denial, there's disbelief, looking for evidence that it isn't true, so it increases morale and competence because they don't believe it's happening to them. But over time, quickly, they realise that things are different and they become angry. And this can result over time in depression, resulting in morale and competence of the work team, the individual, falling to low positions. This is where your strikes and walkouts will occur. Over time, they may experiment the company, initial engagement with a new situation, so morale and competence will start to rise. And over time, a decision is made and it's learning how to work in the new situation. And those that are still there will be feeling more positive and eventually integrated, where changes are integrated into a renewed individual. Help to manage change for the team by providing support, managing expectations, answering staff questions and giving input, being receptive to staff voicing concerns, giving organisational training and information, helping change go smoothly, dealing with problems quickly. By warning colleagues of change that may affect them, teams can work together to anticipate work problems and changes, avoid problems or stop them before they become serious, share accurate information, prepare for changes, keep the delivery of products and services on track, share and build trust between individuals and teams, make sure that they understand the changes, give and receive support. Your assignment question is asking you for question 42 to explain the importance of warning colleagues of problems and changes that may affect them. And further reading can be found in your qualification handbook or use the internet for further research. In this section, we will look at understand how to buddy a colleague. And by the end of this section, you will be able to describe what is expected of a buddy, explain techniques to give positive feedback and constructive criticism, explain techniques to establish rapport with a buddy, what is meant by a buddy? A buddy or mentor will be the experienced person who is given the task of looking after a new person. There can be a buddy relationship between the experienced colleague and the new recruit. The word can be used as a verb that describes the action of looking after. For example, the experienced colleague will buddy the new person for the next week. A colleague will buddy another experienced colleague who has come over from a different team. Buddies in the workplace are an important support mechanism in a number of situations. For example, a new employee, moving to a new department, learning a new role, during change management processes. What would be expected of a buddy? Well, they need to be a good listener to help the new colleague learn about the organisation and show them round. Show the colleague how to do different parts of their job and provide information. Provide general support and arrange informal catch-ups and help with any concerns. Have a think about what other things a buddy could help with. Your assignment question is asking you for question 43A to explain what is meant by the term buddy. And question 43B is asking you to describe what is expected of a buddy. Techniques to use when giving positive and constructive criticism. These techniques include start and end with positive comments using the sandwich technique as I described earlier. Focus on the issue, not the person. Keep eye contact at all times when giving feedback. Use humour when applicable. Be specific and include examples. Choose a suitable time and place to give feedback. Your assignment question is asking you for question 44 to explain 3 techniques to use when giving positive feedback and constructive criticism. And further reading can be found in your qualification handbook or use the internet for further research. Establishing a rapport with a buddy is very important so that the staff member feels that they are approachable. Ask them questions. Listen to their questions and comments. Answer their questions. Use open body language. Be friendly and approachable. Let them know that they can ask you questions. Give them your contact information and set up regular catch-ups. Introduce them to other new members of staff. Be trustworthy and supportive. Organise structured plans to cover all aspects and arrange structured sessions for feedback and questions. Give constructive feedback and criticism. Make sure that communication is balanced and not one-sided. Be available to answer questions about day-to-day issues. Work hard to present a positive and welcoming image of the organisation or team. The buddy's approach needs to be flexible so that they can establish a rapport with a new person and support their individual needs and requests. By finding out about their previous experience, the buddy can tailor their support to the individual and help them to find their way and integrate smoothly and quickly. Here's my very first question then. What time do we finish today? Your final question for this assignment, question 45, is asking you to explain 3 techniques to use when establishing a rapport with a buddy. And further reading can be found in your qualification handbook or use the internet for further research. This concludes the final session relating to your qualification. You would have been sent by email a time, date and link for you to log on to the teaching session which accompanies this presentation. To get the most from your learning journey, please ensure you log on to this online session with your trainer. We hope that you found this presentation useful, and we encourage you to use the unit handbooks which are accessible in PDF format from your e-portfolio to support your studies. For questions? Our remote assistance service, we can be contacted at learners@soluciousequinox.com, and your emails must be marked with NCFE customer service. Thank you for listening. As usual, we welcome your feedback, and you can contact us at learners@soluciousequinox.com, or why not leave us a comment on our YouTube channel.